Hi everyone, and welcome back to Hope from Home, the show where we bring you conversations of hope from our home to yours. Today, Jermaine Bagnall speaks with actor, author, and athlete Kaiser Johnson on how faith and fitness together can help us grow during this time of self-isolation. Noelle Okel learns what the Knights of Columbus have been doing to help during this crisis. And Luisa Florentine speaks with a maternity doctor about the challenges of giving birth these days. And of course, they'll all tell us where they're finding hope from our home to yours.
Hi there, Kaiser. Thanks for joining us here at Hope from Home.
My pleasure. Thanks, Jermaine.
So we'll just dive right into it. Being an author, being a fitness person, can you speak to the link between fitness and faith and how each has an impact on the other?
Sure, absolutely. I think, as Catholics in our modern culture, and I think particularly it affects North American Catholics a lot, and I'm not sure quite why that is, but more, I think, than some other ones. We have this idea that we've fallen into the trap that a lot of the rest of our culture does, is of separating body and soul, and acting as though they're two separate things. And properly, they're not really two separate things. Humans are incarnate souls, and so we are human persons, not human souls trapped in a human body or something like that. And so we should live as full persons, and so that puts an obligation on us to live out our faith, body and soul together. And so if you go, I'm more spiritual, I'm not really into the physical side of things. Well, your body needs the sacraments just as your soul does. And Christ has instituted his church in such a way that it ministers to body and soul as one person. And in that way, God has also created our bodies in such a way that we, just as prayer is beneficial to us as human persons, so is fitness and physical activity beneficial to us as human persons. And again, not just like, oh, it keeps me healthier and it makes sure that I don't get sick, and isn't that great? It is great, but also it instructs us, disciplines us. St. Paul says, I discipline my body. And he talks about that in regards to his spiritual life, and basically going, I need to discipline my body so that I'm not disqualified from heaven. And you can first look at that and go, that's so weird. But the fact is that, we have this understanding of mortification that is through disciplining our body and through denying ourselves things and through making physical sacrifices that we can grow closer to God. And the God who himself endured great suffering and trial for our sake. And I guess the biggest thing to me is, I think so often we try to run away from suffering, or we try to artificially impose sufferings on ourselves, where we go, well, maybe I'll give up chocolate here, or, I'll do something I don't want to do. And it's like, well, why not do, if you're looking for things you don't want to do, and God has given you something that is a challenge already, but has designed it in such a way that if you do this thing, it will actually be beneficial to your body. Why not use that as mortification? And so I think that's one aspect of why fitness is a really important thing, is because it's an opportunity for mortification. It's an opportunity to grow in discipline and to grow in self-sacrifice, and to offer that to God. And it's also something that he's designed that if we do it, it will actually help us both in body and soul to grow as a person.
Oh, that's put absolutely perfectly. Well, it's interesting when you talk about what's suffering, because right now there's quarantine, COVID-19, and we're all impacted. With that idea of suffering, how can people use the suffering, the fitness and faith to strengthen their mind, body, and soul during this period?
Yeah. So part of it is just accepting the suffering that we're experiencing right now. For a lot of people, this is not something we're accustomed to. Father Mike Schmitz has been, talking a lot about. So I've been, he streams mass every Sunday through Ascension Presents, and we've been, he was my spiritual director in college because I went to the University of Minnesota at Duluth, and so we've been streaming those masses every Sunday, and he's been talking a lot about this understanding that what is obvious right now is something that is true all of the time. Is that we live on earth, Christians live in insecurity. We are not, our security does not come from this world. We think, okay, if my money's in place and my job's in place and that kind of thing, I'm secure, I've got it under control. And that we're living in a position of insecurity. And so it's obvious now that no, the truth is we're not in control. God is in control. And we need to show up and assent to his will, not try to go, this is my way all the time. And when things are going my way, then things are good. And when they're not, things are bad. And so I think that's something that is affecting people. And that's something, G.K. Chesterton points out in a lot of his writing is going, you are an adventurer in this world. You are not, things are not going to work the way that you want them to. But it's because we're on the wrong side of the tapestry. We're not seeing the art that God is making with our lives. We're seeing the threads and stuff that don't seem to make sense and don't seem to connect. But that we can trust that there is an artist at work, and we can be a part of that. And so I think with all that, when we can find ways to just show up, do what is asked of us, and continue that's something that helps build family relationships, build faith relationships. My wife and I, we've been exercising, and our 1.5-year-old daughter has been, we're exercising just in the house, doing simple stuff, and she's running around and playing and getting her activity time. And, we're tossing her up in the air and getting exercise with her. And it's like, what can we do right now? What we can do is just show up, do what is asked of us, and it may be minimal, but we can do it with great love, and that's what makes a difference.
That's absolutely fantastic. The great love, it goes over everything. It lead with love, and all types of amazing things are possible. That's great advice. During this time, what is your hope for people?
My hope for people would be, I guess, the same hope that I have for myself, and that I'm struggling with right now, and trying to do better at is really just assenting to God's will, and staying away from despair, and living in hope, and living in trust. Yeah. And to quote Father Mike again, he said last week in his homily, he said, hope is not trust that things will change. Hope is trust in the one who will never change. And that I can trust more in God, and again, not try to seek to have things my way or to do things my way, but just to go, God, as always, I don't really know what's coming next. But I will be faithful to you because I know you're faithful to me. And so in every small way, and not just avoiding sin. I can always do a better job of that. I could do better at avoiding sin, but also one of the best ways to avoid sin is to pursue virtue. And I'd like to do more of that, of really going, what is the best I can do? Something that I try to remind myself a lot of is, if I'm asking myself about anything, oh, what harm could it do? I'm asking the wrong question. The question I should be asking myself is, what good can I do right now? Mm-hmm. And if we're pursuing that, we're not asking ourselves, what harm does an extra piece of chocolate cake do? What harm does just, binging 8 episodes in a row of something on Netflix do? We're asking,
unless it's Stranger Things.
Stranger Things, yeah. Which, go ahead and binge that. That's perfectly good. But yeah, it just reframes the question and goes, my life has intrinsic value. I should act in accord with that and respect the value that my life has. So
that is beautiful and absolutely tremendous. Thank you so much for your time. I really think our audience will take a lot from that and work on their physical fitness and soul fitness. So thanks.
Sounds good. All right. Thanks, Jermaine.
Thanks.
Dr. Mimi, so good to have you here with us today.
Thank you for having me.
You're a Catholic and we're currently on mat leave. How's it going?
It's going well. Interesting times that we're all in, right?
Yeah. So before your maternity leave, you were doing obstetrical care via low-risk deliveries. What strategies are in place during this time, during the pandemic, to ensure that mom and baby are safe?
So every hospital and also every province will be different, right, in terms of their guidelines, and also things are evolving day to day. But I can speak to what's current kind of right now and where I work or used to work. Generally, there's more screening, right? So before entering the hospital, there's a lot of just checks as to whether you have symptoms, whether you've traveled, things like that. Also more checks while you're in labor, say, right? Just to see, are you developing a fever or symptoms that would be suggestive of a COVID infection. But the part of the reason for that is also not to refuse care, obviously, but to decide what kind of equipment or personal protective equipment that the staff would need, or that the person in labor, the woman in labor would need, right, to keep everyone safe. Also, there's different guidelines around how many people should be in the room, right? That's been kind of an ongoing discussion, just to limit the chance of infection for baby and for mom. Mostly, though, we're really trying, and my colleagues are really trying to preserve that moment, right? Or those moments when a woman is in labor, and just make it as safe and healthy as possible, like we always do, to allow baby to come into the world. The only other difference I can think of is more telephone support, right? Which I think is a good thing too, right? So some prenatal visits are done over the phone as opposed to in person like it used to before. But usually that means that maybe we're a little bit more available, maybe, right? So those are some of the changes so far that I'm aware of.
So with that, skin-to-skin touch obviously is very vital to a newborn's physical and emotional growth. Can that still be done safely right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're negative for COVID-19, if you don't have an infection, absolutely, unless there's concerns for baby's well-being once baby's born. And this is the way it's always been, right? Like if baby's born and there's no concerns for baby or for mom, absolutely skin to skin is the way to go. Everybody encourages that and allows that as much as possible. If you have a COVID-19 infection, it's still encouraged and it's still possible. What places are asking is that mom wears a mask and lots of hand hygiene, right? Washing your hands before and after breastfeeding or handling baby, right? So things that we should be doing anyway, but more and more enforced. But definitely skin to skin is encouraged and promoted in the hospital environment and otherwise.
That's really interesting. I didn't know that you could still maintain that skin to skin touch even as mom is positive for COVID-19. It actually makes me wonder, would breastfeeding still be okay right now when we don't know that it is or it isn't?
Yeah, really good question. So when we decide that, or the Canadian Pediatric Society makes the guidelines to help hospitals and care providers like me decide how to help women, right, in these cases. So they look at previous infections like SARS and MERS that have happened in the past, as well as data from, say, China or Italy, people who have been pregnant and delivered, right? As far as I'm aware, there's no evidence for COVID being transmitted through breast milk. So breastfeeding is absolutely encouraged. What the what's interesting is finding if there's what's called vertical transmission. So if mom can give it to baby while baby's inside the uterus, again, very limited data. And while you can't say that it doesn't happen, it doesn't seem likely at this point. So that's not really a worry. But what we have to be aware of is once baby's out, right, and in the world on this side of the womb, right, preventing baby from getting an infection at that point. So if mom is COVID positive, that's part of the reason we ask mom to wear a mask, do hand hygiene and things like that to make sure that that baby is as safe as possible, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm so impressed at how like the precious dyad between mom and baby are still maintained in many ways despite all the commotion happening in the world. You are juggling a lot of things. Obviously, you're in maternity leave, as I said. You're a wife, you're a mother, you're a physician, you're a Catholic. So with all those different roles in your life, how do you receive the daily news that pops up around the pandemic? Like, how are you able to kind of take it all in light of all your roles?
Yeah. So I'll start with as a Catholic. So as a Catholic, the first feeling I have with regards to the pandemic is just a lot of gratitude towards the church, for taking this really seriously and caring for the most vulnerable, whether that be our elderly, our very little ones, the poor, those with chronic diseases, right? Because those are the people that we're really trying to protect by distancing, right? Or by putting all these measures in place. I also feel a lot of grief, I think, with the rest of the church in not being able to partake in the sacraments in a physical way at this time, right? And as time goes forward, that it gets a little bit harder and harder, like it does for everyone, I would say. That being said, I trust in God's mercy, right? In that for those who pass away without being able to partake in the sacraments, that He's there and He knows, right? And also that we'll be able to come back soon, right? Knowing that the Lord will make that happen as well. And then I also pray for a vaccine to be developed soon, so that this also can become a vaccine preventable illness. As a wife and a mother, I think I have waves. Again, also gratitude because I have this time with my family. I have my children at home with me, my husband at home with me. So I have a lot of quality time with them. I also have frustration at being housebound like anybody else. So probably much the same as what everybody else is experiencing. So as a family physician, I have hope and a feeling of responsibility. So I feel that I have the responsibility to educate the public and my patients to take this very seriously and do their part in terms of social distancing, in terms of staying at home. I also want my patients, especially my Catholic patients, to really take their mental health seriously at this time. Just be aware of how they're feeling and because it's not easy to be inside and to be so cut off from what regular is for us, right? I think everyone needs to get some sunlight once in a while. Everyone needs to minimize how much they read about COVID-19 on the news, maybe just once a day, and also fight that loneliness, right? There are so many ways that we can do that, either by reaching out to others or spending quality time with real quality time with those at home with us. All of those measures, I think, will be really important during this time.
Thank you so much for sharing your insight with us, Dr. Mimi. I certainly learned a lot, and actually just learning these cool facts between mom and baby reminded me a lot about our Mother Mary, and it just kind of brought upon this like image in my head of Mama Mary holding the infant Jesus and how powerful even that bond is. So it's no surprise that in a way there's still that intimate connection being protected during this chaotic time. So again, I'm just so amazed by that. And so thank you for sharing that with us. So I wish you all the best to you and your family and your new baby. So yeah, thank you and have a good day.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Hello, David Nalieri. Thanks for joining us all the way from New Haven, Connecticut. How are you keeping?
Yeah, doing well, Noel. Thanks so much for having me on. Doing well. It's a little bit of a surreal experience, obviously working from home, but doing very well. And thank to God, I'm healthy and having a chance to do a lot of great work, seeing what the Knights of Columbus are doing around the country and U.S., Canada, around the world.
Great. Listen, as the director of film and digital media for the Knights of Columbus Supreme Council, I was hoping to talk to you, really quickly about some of the initiatives that the Knights have started to help churches and dioceses around the world to survive this crazy pandemic crisis.
Yeah, thanks, Noel. I think for the Knights of Columbus, our work is really in keeping with our tradition. And the first principle, of course, of the Knights is charity. And everything we've been doing in response to the COVID-19 pandemic has really been keeping with that. And it's all under the mantle of a new initiative launched by the Supreme Knight called Leave No Neighbor Behind. And basically what that is calling brother Knights to reach out to the neighbors, reach out to their community, reach out to their parish, see where their needs are, reach out to their brother Knights. And under the guidelines of that program, Knights are doing a great job bringing spiritual and charitable outreach to their communities. I've had the chance overseeing film production to be hiring film crews across the country and Canada as well, profiling the work of these Knights. And they're really doing what the Knights do best, which is, rolling up your sleeves, getting out there, trying to make a difference.
That's incredible. So they're probably busier than ever now.
They really are. And a big part of the program is going to be a multi-million-dollar fundraising drive for food banks. As you know, with everything going on, that's impacting lower-income people to a greater degree. There's a real need for food for people in need. And so this is a multi-million-dollar campaign. And in Canada, it's making a big difference. We've given $50,000 to programs in Toronto, Montreal, $25,000 to Edmonton and Vancouver. And local Knights on the ground, the grassroots level, are reaching out to food banks and also blood drives. We're very proud that the Knights of Columbus, going back way back to the 1930s, led the first blood drive. And so there's also a need for blood during this time of the pandemic. And so we're encouraging brother Knights to lead blood drives as well. And I think charity is a huge component of it.
Yes.
But spirituality and faith is as well. So we encourage Knights to pray a 9-day novena for a prayer for times of pandemic. And we actually produced a video for that, got about 250,000 views on YouTube and had a great response. We streamed a Divine Mercy Sunday Mass with Archbishop Laurie. And this month, following the call of Pope Francis, we're encouraging Knights to pray the Rosary. And at the St. John Paul II Shrine in Washington, D.C., every night in the month of May at 8 p.m., live streamed on YouTube and on Facebook. Knights and all Catholics can watch a live stream of the Rosary and unite themselves in their prayers with the Holy Father for an end to this pandemic.
Okay, what website can people log on to partake in that Rosary?
Yeah, so it's the YouTube and the Facebook channel for the St. John Paul II Shrine, and that'll also be on the Knights of Columbus YouTube and Facebook channel as well.
Okay, that's great. Listen, as the director of film and media, are you guys working on any interesting video projects or any movies during this time? I'd love to hear
I would encourage brother Knights and all your viewers to check out our website, kfc.org. We have a news hub. We've got a lot of videos we've produced, and some of them really inspired me. Knights in Iowa that on Good Friday got together, donated their time, put together food baskets, and made an special Easter dinner for the people in need in their community. Patrick Mason, a member of the board of directors for the Knights of Columbus, who's a Native American himself, member of the Osage Nation. He's leading a lot of efforts in New Mexico. Native Americans are very much disproportionately impacted by this pandemic. So we produced a short video, you can be seen on our website, where we show the work that the Knights are doing, putting together food baskets for Native American communities that are really devastated by this. A lot of them have pre-existing health conditions like diabetes. They don't have clean water in a lot of these reservations. So we're trying to help Native Americans as well. So we've got several videos that we're highlighting the work we're doing, including Knights in Maryland that got together to help Little Sisters of the Poor that work at a nursing home but lacked resources. And they got together, donated masks, cleaning items, and things that the Little Sisters of the Poor needed as well. So there's a lot of great activities going around, and we're really proud of our brother Knights and the work that they're doing.
That's absolutely incredible. Thank you so much. Now, I like to ask this one question of everybody I chat with. What, David, gives you hope personally during this difficult time?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think all of us start to lean a little bit on spiritual giants in our own lives and people who have influenced us. And for me, certainly two of my heroes are Pope John Paul II and Cardinal Antoine. And when I was at Salt and Light, I produced the documentary Road of Hope, The Spiritual Journey of Cardinal Antoine. And John Paul II, when he reflected on Cardinal Antoine, he said that the great example of Antoine is that he taught us that even when everything is crumbling around us, and sometimes even within us, that we always have Christ as our support. And I think for any of us, if, experiencing the difficulties of being restricted, fear of disease for our family, how this may impact us economically or personally, to kind of realize that ultimately our faith rests on God, in God, and we have to trust in Him. And I think during these difficulties, we can actually grow in our faith because we realize more and more how much we need God, and we learn to not be so self-reliant. And I think that's something that's helped me to reflect on as I try to pray more, draw closer to God during a difficult period.
That's great, David. Listen, thank you so much for your time and and sharing with us your thoughts and your perspectives about what's happening during this difficult time.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Noel. I'll just add that if anybody wants to donate to the work we're doing for the Leave No Neighbor Behind program, they can do that at kfc.org.
That's excellent. David, thanks so much again.
Thanks for having me on, Noel. Appreciate it.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And that's all for today. It's so true that we have to stay fit and that there is a strong connection between our faith and our fitness. Have you been working out? And what did you think of Luisa's conversation with Dr. Mimi? Do you know anyone who is pregnant or has given birth during this time? Also, tell us if you're a Knight and what your council has been doing to help during this crisis. Share your stories with us by following Salt and Light Media on all of our social media platforms and commenting with the hashtag #HopeFromHome. If you missed any part of the episode and you'd like to watch it again, visit our website saltandlighttv.org/HopeFromHome. We hope that these stories inspire you to stay positive and remind you that we're all still connected through hope.